Alrighty, new canvas. The green one has been preempted for a different kind of project. Hate to say it, but the background really turned out nice. And so I'm going to go back and do something else for my Santa Claus commission. Marking off this area. I want it to be like light. You'll see what I'm gonna do in a minute. Primary magenta will work good. Let's get a brush. Uh-oh, what's in there? My dip pen. I always soak those in water for just a few minutes. Come along with me as we make this up. Two drops, that's all it takes. I want some verticals. That didn't work though. I'll do it again in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and do my alcohol. This is my technique of the moment. I love it. And I've got my little glass jigger jar full with something else. Put a thin glaze of white. Now, it was Titan Buff, and then did some more alcohol. This time I've got my red on here without being watered down. And I want some streakies. I just picked up a real coarse brush, or sponge, I'm sorry. See if I can get some kind of a look I like. I didn't film all this because I was just trying to feel my way around. What I did, I've probably got 4 or 5 different layers. I've got some iridescent white under here. This is a Titan Buff. I went with a more violet down here and a more cad red up here, and you can't really tell much difference. I've got circle patterns from the alcohol, and I've got straight patterns from just picking up a tool and scratching into it like that. So that works. I think I'm going to see how much seeped under the tape. A lot, but that's okay too. You never know what you're going to get. Cool. Okay, this time we're going to cross it here. Oop, I didn't take that one off. Pretty awesome, really. Alrighty, now I'm going to go yellow to my first coat's going to be pretty thin. Orange. Orangey beautiful. Oops. Separated.
Hey, buddy.
And quinacridone gold. Let's see what this does. Okay, now a little more yellow and a little more. Where'd it go? Tighten buff. We're going to try this all at once. Alright, here's the yellow. Yellow to red. I'm using all transparent color, so either Deco Art Media Fluid, or I'm using some of the Tattered Angels Glimmer Glaze. And I like that because when you put heat to it, it bubbles a little. So, somebody is sawing something. Okay, you ready for the big reveal on the yellow? Well, we didn't get much run under. A little. Cool. Now, where are we going to go? This is probably going to be my top area. So, let's just take a gander. Let's go from, don't want to line anything up. Why line anything up? Let's see. Now, what are we going to do? I pulled out some yellow oxide. And I'm going to go to English red oxide. In the middle, I'm going to put yellow. Oh. I'm going to turn this off. Alrighty, that one ended up being a little bit yellow to red because I put some red over that brownish color. I've still got some. Ew. Okay. Alright, here's the big reveal on this one. Ooh, we got some good leaking on that one. No, maybe not so much. I'm still using the same tape. Oops. This may be the last run for this one. Well, alright, let's do that. All we're doing here is building pattern, building background. And I am going to go with, what am I going to go with? There's a quinacridone violet, dioxazine purple. What do we got here? No, not phthalo. Alrighty, here's the big reveal on the purple stripe. It's silver and purple, and this is picking up from the orange, and it's picking up some from under the red. Then a little bit of Titan Buff, and some Glimmer Glaze. That's the cleanest line we've had yet. I'm not sure I want such clean lines. Now remember, the more big dots you want with your alcohol, the wetter it has to be. Oh crap, I just slopped out. A great big old thing of muddy water. If you get too much paint like I just did, just blot some of it up. And that made a nice texture all by itself. I just love this. It's so much fun. It's definitely the water that makes the alcohol play. Okay, here are the purples, or the greens I should say. Now the good thing about this is, if I don't like it when I get finished, I can tone the whole thing down and it'll be good. Alrighty, here I am blocking in with some watered down white gesso where I want my Santa Claus to be. And the striped tape is a washi tape that I put on. Don't ask me why, I can't tell you. I just did not put it on a straight line, mimicking the fan-shaped colors in the background. Excuse me. I mean those fan-colored shapes. But I like the tape, so there it is. That's about all the reason I have for doing anything. And I'm filling this in with gesso so that it mutes those background colors so that I can come back and paint realistically on top of Santa. Or paint the Santa on top of the gesso. I'll get it right in a minute. If you don't want to hand paint your Santa, find one in a magazine and collage it on. I'll just showing off a little bit. No, not really. That's part of the challenge for me. And if y'all hang around with me enough, you'll learn that you too can paint Santa. Just takes practice. And a desire to do it. A desire to do it is more than half the battle. You can see him showing up here. What I had done was drawn him out first on tissue paper to size, and then redrew him on here. So when I was doing the gesso, I wasn't going all the way up to the lines so that I could leave myself a roadmap to follow. And here I'm going in and painting around that. He has a wine glass in his hand, and I'm painting around that with Tattered Angels media paint. I love this color, and the colors are so transparent you can see everything underneath. And the method for my madness is to make the Santa Claus stand out. He's the star of the show, not all the background. So that's getting toned back. And there's my drawing. Checking it to see where I am. Nothing is written in stone, so I can always come back over. If I draw over a good line or whatnot, I can come back over it. Restating the darks a little bit. Keeping a fairly soft line because I'm not sure at this point what's going to happen on that upper edge. I let the first coat dry and then came back in with a second coat. I prefer to do that in stages so that I don't go too far. In other words, if you try to do it all in one pass and you don't like it, you're in trouble. Toning down the bottom stripe now just a hair. And some more of my favorite alcohol treatment. And that is 91% isopropyl alcohol. The water in the acrylic paint, spray it or wet it first, is what makes the pigment move out of the way with the alcohol. So you may not be able to get this effect unless you've got some water added to the acrylic. Painting in the red cowboy hat. You can barely see it. Sorry about that. This is a bigger canvas than I usually work on, and I need to get my aerial video camera moved up a little bit. I'm so sorry. I really am. That's for real. I had the idea of a red Santa Claus hat, and it worked great in theory. Rechecking my drawing. Actually, there's not much of a drawing on the face. So let's just say I'm adding a little drawing. A little more gesso. I think. No, you know what? That was Flesh Tone by Ceramcoat Delta. It covers well and it gives a little bit of a chalky finish similar to what gesso does. It'll just give me a little warmth to play with. Most of it gets covered up. I think I told you guys in the beginning this is a commission, and I started out thinking that I could actually paint Jim as Santa Claus, but there wasn't any way I could make Jim into a jolly roly-poly Santa. Anything I put on here at this stage is likely to be covered, but I'm just this is my way of sneaking up on it. I know he's got to have big red cheeks and a big red nose, so this is just the way of sneaking up. Most of it will be covered, so it's just a way to trick your brain into relaxing and going with the flow. Now I'm coming in with a purple color, probably one of the pinks and the Tattered Angels blue. Purple color makes a good shadow tone for flesh. You want to have some pigment in your shadow tone. It just adds a good layer underneath what you'll come back and do. See, I've already covered up the harsh pinks, but it's still there. So, through the grain of the canvas or the weave of the canvas, you might see just a hint of that color peeking through. Couldn't wait. Had to start on that beard and mustache. Adding lights to the light side. Remembering that the eye socket is round, so the hole where the eyeball fits is round. That's what gives you room for the lids to cover the eyeball. So the light will hit on the light side, which is the upper right, and the dark shadows will be on the left side. And that's what contributes to the round look of the eyeball and its socket. Eyebrows go on the brow bone, and that bone protrudes over the eyes for protection. So the top of the eyebrows, over the eyebrows, always gets a little bit of a lighter color because that bone is beginning to come out. You can try that with your own eyes. You can feel it on your own face. A lot of people like to paint the eyeballs first and the eyes, put the highlights in so that the painting has its personality. I sometimes do and sometimes don't. Sometimes it helps me to get my forms shadowed in correctly first and then do the detail work on the eyes. So it just depends on what I'm working on and what kind of mood I'm in. I'm covering up the cool color with a little bit of dark flesh tone to warm that just a little bit. The bottom of the nose is 3 balls, just like the eyeball socket. Finding a little bit of lights here on this brow bone. My acrylic paint is not really dry. I'm moving pretty quickly, so I can still get some blending. It's set up a little bit but it will still move when you come back with another color. So that's why I've left those white highlights so stark, is because I can come back in just a few seconds or minutes, and they're still just a little bit workable, but they're not as wet as they were. Coming back in with some of that purplish shadow color. Shadow under the nose, away from the light. And this face is so small you can't really get too technical about how hard shadows and cast shadows. You really have to have more than an inch to get that technical. It's push-pull. Remember, that's one of the things I say all the time. You put it on, you cut back into it, glaze back into it with another color, and then you put your white color, light color back on, put your shadow color on, put a little more white. So it's a put it on, take it off kind of routine that goes on, and you can see his nose actually beginning to become lifelike as I do the push-pull dance. Now in this particular lighting, I am pretending that there's a warm light coming from the upper right, which goes along with what I've actually painted in the background, and then I've got a cooler light coming from the right-hand side. So the beard on the right will have a bluish cast to it, and the beard on the left, as we're looking at it, will be a warmer white. A single light source is always easier. But hey, use every opportunity to play and practice new skills, and then you never know when one day you'll just be playing along and you'll wonder how you got here. Through a lot of hard practice. Underneath the eyes, the fold of skin underneath the eye catches the light because it's coming out toward you. So I've just put a little bit of that underneath the pupils. Just roughly blocking in a little bit of the hair now. Softening the edges. I want that shadow color to show through. I can always come back in and pop some thicker whites, some more opaque whites on top. So consider this just the underpainting. So there's some of that bluish shadow color creeping in on the left side. I'm sorry, the right side. And because my highlights are so light on the, so sheer on the cheeks, I'll restate those over and over again as we go. Here I come back into that forehead area with a little more flesh tone and tone down those white stripes, or the light colored stripes. Ears always look like they've got a light behind them. They're in artist colors, that's a cadmium red. It's it's a red with a lot of orange in it. So it's in between orange and red. A cool red is alizarin crimson, which tends toward the blue side instead of the yellow side. Blocking in the yoke detail on his western shirt. I come back way later in the process to figure out where the fat wrinkles are going to go. I could have done it earlier, but I still hadn't resolved it in my mind. So at this point, still just doing a flat block in. Shading just a little bit as I go. Painting in some wrinkles with an alizarin crimson with a little blue, which makes a purplish red. And a straight cad orange or cad red for where the light would hit. There's the western detail on the pocket. This is what you call negative painting. You paint the shape around the white area. You don't worry about being perfect at this point. Well, don't ever worry about being perfect. The more loose edges you leave at this stage, the easier it is to come back and refine your drawing later. Reds are one of the hardest colors. You can go darker with blue, but to go lighter with red, if you put white in it, you're going to make it chalky. So to go lighter than red, you almost have to go into the oranges and yellows to keep that color rich. So always resist the impulse to put white in your red or you'll turn it into pink. Trust me, because I did it in just a little bit. Some lessons you have to do over and over and over again. And I do know better. See how pretty that orangish color looks? Another trick that I sometimes remember to try, don't reach for the white, reach for the lighter colors up the color wheel. For example, if you're working in, let's say, alizarin crimson, which is a bluish red, then your next color up the color wheel would go toward a true red, which is a cadmium red, and then you go up, if you want to lighten it some more, go to cad orange, and then go to yellow, and those will make your color tone richer. If you jump into white, you're going to be in trouble. Part of the reason for that is that titanium white or whites are cool colors. Your reds are going into a hot color. They're in the red, yellow, warm colors, and when you add white, that cools those colors down. And you want a real warm color, not a cool color in those warmish reds. And the other thing I had done was ask Vicki to send me, I knew that Jim wore a belt buckle that was important to him. It was an event that he thoroughly enjoyed, and the belt buckle is a souvenir from that. So he wears it when he's in his Western clothes. And I got her to send me a picture of the actual belt buckle. I didn't make myself crazy trying to duplicate it exactly, but I did do a resemblance of it. He'll know what it is. The hat is also the shape of the hat that he wears. And again, that's a detail that nobody else will figure out, but it makes it more personal for them. And this is a commission, but I'm keeping it a surprise. See, there I come in with some white. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the pocket detail. Just vary the reds. Don't pre-mix them. Put the orangey red right there with the blue red with the purple. Paint in shapes. You can blend the edges later, but you don't want to mush all your colors together, because then you'll just have one flat color and it won't have any personality or feeling. See how that looks where I go from the lighter red to the darker red? It's starting to give the illusion of that button band curving. Coming back in now and softening the edge where the beard and the blue shirt overlap. Just came back in with a little bit of white on that cuff, but left all the dark color for shadows. Alrighty, I'm in with a very fine liner. I'm making a very rough, jagged line for the piping on that shirt. I don't want a continuous line, I want it broken. And that's exactly what I got. Start painting on the hand using the same methods I did for the face, starting with the flesh tone ceram coat. Oh, again, you can barely see what I'm doing on the cowboy hat. The red didn't show up good enough, so I didn't really want a white hat on Santa, because even though he's a good guy, you don't wear white hats in the winter. I guess you do if you're not Southern. But there you go. I'm Southern. So you don't wear, in my world, you don't wear a white hat in winter. So I've kind of given him a beigey hat. And having the red underpainting underneath it isn't a bad idea. It does kind of tend to take that to a reddish tan color, which I like. I decided that he needed a sleeve, or at least an arm over on the other side. So just giving the illusion of a shoulder. Putting a little, beginning to play around with that big belly. I obviously painted some without the camera on, giving the belt buckle a rough all-over color of gold, and then adding a little bit of a little darker brownish tone. I'm going to start building that up to see if I can make it really look shiny, like metal. White highlights coming in. You can see where I get a little bit bored and just start doinking them. But it already gives it just a little bit of dimension. It's all an illusion to fool the eye. Coming back in with a translucent, kind of a thin black. Even though that would be an antique metal, it would still be very warm, which means that you would see some of the gold tone through it. So as the metalsmith would have glazed that bronze or gold belt buckle with a black stain, that's pretty much what I'm doing here. And in some places you'll still see some gold shining through. This actually says Cheyenne, and I'm doing my darndest to paint it in there realistically. Didn't quite work out like I thought it would, but you could still tell what it is, and he'll know what it is. If you were really going to paint this belt buckle in a realistic fashion, it would have to be 2 inches, 3 inches, rather than a half an inch. Restating a little more white. Now anytime I want to, I can go in with an opaque white. I'm probably using a gesso here, and I like that because it's a softer approach. I may dot white on there 5 or 6 different times, come back with an opaque white and just make a small dot, and that gives that spot dimension. His belly is still way off. But we're not doing the belly right now, Vicki. We're doing the belt buckle. And the reason why Vicki probably quit on the belly and went to the belt buckles because she didn't know how to make the belly look good. So, fool the eye, trick the mind, and go on to something else. Alrighty, I have taken some, wait a minute, here we're showing it, Canvas Corp Christmas Words on Ivory. And I have cut the strips apart, and I'm aging them with Ranger Archival ink and ultramarine blue. Because the blue is pretty much the predominant color on the front, I wanted to age these the same way. Now I let all those nice drippies show on the canvas, and now I'm fixing to cover them up. So I'm going to add some drippies to these strips of paper. And again, these are just an enhancement. Santa Claus is still the focal point. So all this extra stuff is there to enhance him, not take anybody's attention. Now I'm coming back in with some oregano, again Adirondack, and some gold stampabilities. And I'm just distressing these using some of the colors that appear dominant on the front. A little bit of red. And I'm hoping these are waterproof. I used the same striped tape on the edges, and I'm gluing the strips down with matte medium. This paper is a cardstock, so it helps to put the matte medium on and let the paper soak it up, soften a bit. I left a space in between each of the strips. Don't know why at this point, but I did. And it looks like I've obviously done the wine glass and some more on the hand. I pulled out my new little tool from Artsy. This is the one that comes with sponge and sandpaper. And I'm sanding the blue area. I wanted to see if I could find some more texture, which I did, because remember the Tattered Angels Glimmer Glaze bubbles when you get it hot, if that's what you want it to do, which I did. So I'm getting a real neat effect there by using this sandpaper pad. You can see some of the iridescent there to the right of Santa's head. Let's see what she's going to do now. I'm the she here, and I don't have a clue what I did next. Okay, wetting that down, that top. Okay, we're toning down that top stripe. After looking at this for several nights, the warm color at the very top was screaming, didn't look like it was part of the same painting. So I have put a little bit of DecoArt Media Gesso and coming back with a dry towel, just wiping that back a little bit. Not really caring too much if it gets on the masking tape. I didn't film that masking tape either. I just realized that it wasn't there and now it's there. I painted on top of his head. I had a choice there. I could have cut around his head, cut the tape around his head, or paint on top of the tape. Either way, you're going to get a line. So pick your evil. I sanded some more on that top section. You can see where the white soaked into the crackle glaze from the earlier steps. Trying to show you the texture that I've got. I hope I don't make you seasick. Glimmer Mist. I think this is dried lavender. Just adding layers. When that dries, you'll see a hint of a glimmer. I think as I was saying earlier, the little splotches on the masking tape don't matter because that makes those look organic, as more a part of what they're on top of. I'm spraying on the sides. I know you can't see it. I'm sorry about that. And I'm also sorry I didn't film the hand. Hands are a booger for me, so it probably took me 3 or 4 hours, and probably just as good you didn't see me struggle with that anyway. I'm sanding more on the bottom section. I highly recommend this tool, by the way. I got mine at Joann's, 40% off coupon. I think it was $11 or $12. Comes with 4 different pads. Of course, y'all know me. I'll have to get extra pads or I won't use it, because what happens if your pad wears out in the middle of when you're using it? That's just me. The other thing I'm doing at this point is running some matte medium around the edge of the tape on the sides. I want to make sure that that stays down. Coming back and playing a little bit more with the fingers, adding some highlights. A little more of the Cad Red to make the fingers look lifelike. Modifying the base of the glass a little bit so that the oval shape matches the oval shape at the top of the glass. I could give you a whole lesson on how to draw ovals like that, but we'll save that for another time. adding a little bit of a red reflection on the side of that glass closest to Santa because his red shirt would reflect in that glass. Going back on that big old belly. Covering up some of what I had done earlier. Just realize that the high point of the belly would be the brightest part. The darkest part would be from the wrinkle. Here I put some white in. Couldn't help myself. See, the darkest part is from the line up. Now I'm coming back with some of the cad red. Got a little too much white in there. I could have done myself a lot of favors if I had resolved this before I started painting. But what's the fun in that? My source material was various and sundry different pieces on the internet. A man holding a wine glass, a Santa sculpture, whatever I could find that kind of went with my concept. Jumping around now, I tend to do that. Work on one area, bring it up a level, and then go over to another area that needs a little bit of maybe another level, another layer. Beginning to add some opaque white in the beard and the fur. How many layers of white now is that on the cheek highlight? About 15. But every one of them leads us to the realism that the painting ends up being. I have no clue what I'm adding there. Oh, matte medium. I'm putting it on top of that paper tape. I like the way the sanded areas look on the navy blue. It almost makes it wintry looking. Using a bit more. This is Tattered Angels. It's the white or champagne. Adding a little more opaque white. Chunking it on there. Just make marks with it. I'm adding some of the, excuse me, Tattered Angels, High Impact, that blue that I used in the background. And I'm going all the way around the edges with it. That's kind of something I learned in journaling. Kind of frames the painting just a little bit. I'm drying everything really good. I have added some modeling paste, and I tinted that with Tattered Angels as well. There's the dried lavender again. And I've got a green gold too that I'm spraying every once in a while. enhances some of the greens that were underneath in the original layers. As we near the end, the things that I add are not essential to the overall painting, but they tend to add their own little bits of interest. I like for a painting to capture your attention from across the room so you see what it is, and then when you get closer to it, you see all the details that have gone into making these layers. What I'm doing right here is the Glimmer Glaze in the brightest red I have, and it looks like strawberry jam cookies. Those where it's kind of that clear jam in the middle, or jelly, whatever. And I've put dots of that on his belt buckle, and I put dots of that in between each of those stripes around the edge. And you'll see it here in just a minute. It really needed to dry overnight and have 2 or 3 different layers, but of course, I'm in a hurry, so you'll see it in a minute. I used some of the Glimmer Glaze in the gold and the champagne. And again, it is a 3-dimensional. It has just a little bit of glimmer in it. I either had to answer the phone or took pictures. That's probably what I was doing here. Come on, slide it over so we can see it. Yep, taking pictures. I'll add some of those so you can see them.